Hi, this is Sean D'Souza, and you're listening to the 3-Month Vacation Podcast. This podcast isn't some magic trick about how to work less. Instead, it's about how to really enjoy the work that you do and to enjoy your vacation time. Hi, it's Sean, and you're listening to the 3-Month Vacation. How do you know if fruit is ready to be picked? According to monk and philosopher Matthew Ricard, here's how you do it. You reach up to the fruit and then you touch it. You don't have to pull it. You don't have to break the branch. You just get the fruit. You just touch it and it falls in your hands. Matthew Ricard is obviously not talking about testimonials in small business, but that's precisely what we're talking about today. One of the most recurring questions that I get is, how do you get testimonials in advance? Say your product is not ready, your course is not finished, or maybe you started the course and they haven't gone through the entire course. How do you get those testimonials? And we even have a name because of a member from 5000 BC, Alan. He suggested that they're called pit stop testimonials. So here we go. How do we get these pit stop testimonials? This podcast doesn't have 3 parts. It has just 2 parts because there are just 2 situations that we're dealing with. The first situation that we're talking about is that you have a brand new product, you have a brand new course or service, and the second one is a work in progress, that the product or the service or the course is not brand new, but no one has finished it yet. So let's start out with the first one, which is situation 1, and you have a brand new product, you have a brand new service. When I was young, I'd occasionally get to see a movie before everyone else. And this wasn't on a VHS tape because we didn't have a player, but we'd go to the movies, to the cinema. That place where you get ice cream and popcorn and all that good stuff. And the reason why I got to these early screenings was because of my father. He seemed to know some people who did those screenings that got us into the movies way in advance. But it wasn't an exclusive screening. There were other people in the cinema hall as well. Who were those people, I wondered. My father told me that they were movie critics. They reviewed the movies. They'd get to see the movies in advance. Then they'd critique the movies in the newspaper or the magazine columns. And if you stop and think about it, not a lot has changed in advance reviews. All the big movie production houses still follow the same system. They screen the movie, get the critics in, they get the reviews, and what's happened along the way is that everything else has also followed that system. So when you look at books, you have a pretty similar system in place, similar formula in place. You get advanced criticism or advanced praise or whatever you want to call it, and then the book comes out. And this is the whole point. The point is that if you have something physical or even digital, someone can go through it and give you a review. You may or may not have a list of clients. You may or may not have a list of subscribers. But if you do, then you can ask them to review the material. If you don't, then you could ask on social media, you could ask in forums, you could ask in a membership site like 5000 BC, or there's bound to be some kind of networking group in your town, your city, and that's where you can get your reviews. But I'm not telling you anything that you don't know so far. So here's the interesting bit. And the interesting bit is that you don't have to wait until the end. You could start the review process a lot earlier than you expect. So most of us, what we tend to do, and this is the mistake that we make, we tend to finish our books. We tend to tie up the courses. We tend to go from start to end in a training program. And then we say, okay, can you give us a review? Or we finish it's like making the whole movie, and then we go, okay, now look at the movie and give me a review. And you don't have to do that. Those poor movie guys have to do that, but you don't have to do that. You can get someone, maybe a friend or a colleague or people that you know, to help you while you're still putting that course, that book, whatever your product is, while you're still putting it together. And this can be a physical product. It doesn't have to be information. It could be anything. So what they're doing is they're helping you build it. And now they can be a source of feedback. They can be a source of information. But once you're done, you now are in a position to get a testimonial. Let me give you an example. Let's say I was putting together a course on cooking Indian food. We don't have that. We might have that sooner than you think, but let's say we're doing that, cooking Indian food. At this point in time, if you go to the Psychotactics website, you'll find a recipes page. You'll find yummy food, photos, and recipes. But there's no mention of any recipe book. There's no course. There's nothing there. And let's say that I wanted to create that course. I wanted to create that book. What most of us would do is we'd go and we'd create the entire course, or we'd create the entire book. And no, you don't have to do that. I would go about it this way. I would invite a friend or a person from a networking group, LinkedIn group, any group, and anyone who was interested, anyone that I know, and we all know people. So I would have a conversation with someone, they would get interested. I would say, hey, do you want to come along for this trip? And this is what I did with my friend Els Jacobs, who I mention quite often on this podcast. So she lives in the Netherlands, and we communicate almost daily through Facebook Messenger. And when we were in the Netherlands, in Leiden, I talked to her about Indian food, and she got all excited. And so we are back in Auckland, but I send her some recipes, she tries them out, and then she gives me a feedback. Now let's say that I wanted to get that book or that course going. I could get Els and others like her to be on a sort of beta program, and then they can test the product, they can give their feedback. And here's the question for you. Do you think that they'd be likely to provide a testimonial sooner than later? And would they provide that testimonial even though the product isn't ready? It's easy to believe that a product needs to be complete before you get your testimonial. So we've been talking about products that aren't quite complete, but let's assume that your product is ready for the market and now you need to get your testimonial. Once again, you have to go through the early review process so that you can put your product on your site, you can put it in your marketing material. In such a case, you would have to reach out to someone that you know or some group that you belong to. And here's where we go to the second interesting point. Not the second section, but the second interesting point. And things go wrong at this stage because now you've got this product and you think, okay, I've got this whole book. I've got this whole recipe book. I've got this whole course. Let them go and review this whole thing. So just to backtrack a bit, when we had just one recipe, we could get feedback on that. And that was easy because you were building it one by one. But now you've got the whole thing, and now you feel compelled to get a review of the entire thing, the entire course, the entire workshop, the entire everything. And you look around you and you ask for people to help you, and no one is interested. Several requests later, you've received no response at all. Have you ever thought why this could be a problem? Well, one of the reasons, part of the reason, is probably that you're asking for too much. When you ask a person to review your book, your course, your entire long and winded consulting program, you're asking for a lot. You're asking me to put my life on hold to somehow meet your deadline. This is not my job. This is not something, yes, I'm your friend. Yes, I'm your colleague. Yes, I am someone who likes you and likes your work. But I can't do all of that in one go. And what happens is, even among friends, even among people that know you really well, they just seem to slide past. They seem to almost not pay attention to what you've asked them. And this is because they're already busy. Even the most helpful people shy away because it's such a complex task, which is why you need to make it easier by breaking it up in pieces. Let me give you an example of how we go about stuff. Not all the time, but often. So in early August, we launched a new version of the Psychotactics website. And about a week or so before we launched the site, we asked the members of 5000 BC whether they'd be keen on reviewing the site. So what was the response? It was terrific. But why was this the case? The reason for their enthusiasm was twofold. And you might say, well, they're your members, they like you. No. We kept it really small. We promised that we'd get them to review just one page. And they had clear guidelines as to what feedback we wanted, how to go about it. So these are two bits in case you didn't notice. The first is that it was a very small request, one section, one little bit. And the second was that there were guidelines in place. And when you look at most people asking for a review, they do just the opposite. They ask their friends or clients, can you review my site? Or can you review my book? Or can you give your critique on my entire course? It's not a surprise, is it? It's not a surprise that you're not getting any response or little or no response. If you really wanted to get a response, you have to have both of these elements in place. You have to give the reviewer a tiny piece, and then you have to give them guidelines. You have to give them clear guidelines. And that is how you get reviews in advance. If you follow this practice of asking for specific feedback on specific sections, you solve that second problem. Well, we started out this podcast with one problem where the product was brand new, no one had heard about it. But let's say you're on the second problem, which is the product or service is not brand new, but no one has finished it yet. Let's wander across to the second part, shall we? Early in 2016, we had launched a 3-day sales page course in beautiful Queenstown, New Zealand. This is in the South Island. It is one of the most stunning places that we have been to. And as you probably know, we've been to many, many places because of our 3-month vacation. But anyway, we had this workshop in Queenstown, and 6 clients made their way from the US, from UK and Australia, and 1 from New Zealand to be on that course. So the situation is now the entire course is out there. There are all the slides, everything's ready. And remember, it's a 3-day course. So how are you going to get a testimonial for the course on the first or the second day? The same problem arises, doesn't it? What we're looking at is, okay, we have to get to the end of this course, and then when we get to the end of the course, then we'll ask for the testimonial. But you don't have to do that, do you? It's like a website or like a book. What you're doing is you're looking at piecemeal situations. Instead of the client talking about the entire course, they can talk about a section. Maybe they were surprised to find out that the sales page needs to be written from the bottom up and not from the top down. You don't start from the headline, you start down at the bullets. So maybe they thought, wow, this is absolutely stunning. They don't have to talk about the entire course. They can just talk about that section. Perhaps they learned how to create a uniqueness. They looked at the features and the benefits. And you know how we always struggle with the uniqueness? Well, there is a method. And say they were sitting through that exercise and they go, Sean or Renuka, that was amazing. I learned something that has bugged me for so long. I've been trying to get my uniqueness, and now I know how to do this for any product, every product. There you go. You have your testimonial. It doesn't have to be about the course. It just has to be about one section, one Unit 1, whatever you want to call it. A client can get 2 or 3 aha moments in 1 hour, let alone 1 day. This, of course, depends on how enthusiastic they are when they talk to you, but also depends on how long you've known the client. So if a client has known you for a while, they're more likely to come in earlier and give you a testimonial. Clients that are a little, I have to wait to the middle or the end kind of client, they will wait to the middle or the end, and that's fine. So you can streamline this kind of system where you go, okay, we know Alia and we know Jason and we know this person, that person, and they can come in earlier, and then whoever else is relatively new will come in later. And you can do that. The other problem that you have with a course is that the course ends and then everyone gets on this plane and they run off. All of these clients had come a long way and they weren't exactly flying off that same night. But they're still tired. At the end of the course, at the end of 3 days, there's information. At the end of a book, there is information. Their heads are spinning. It's much harder for someone to give you a testimonial at the end rather than 1/3 or 2/3 of the way. And that's something that you need to consider as well. And that's what we do. We schedule clients to give their testimonials early in the next morning, some of the lunch break, and at other times of the day. So you see what's happening, right? The product, the course, or the service, it's brand new. No one has finished it yet. But why do they have to get to that endpoint? No testimonial can cover every single aspect of the course anyway. The client is always going to give you just 1 or 2 points that were of great value to them. So why not ask them which part was of value to them? And when you do, people will be extremely happy to volunteer. Or you could change the question. You could say, when we covered section A, what did you find that was useful to you? Or when we did section B, or when we did section C. This line of questioning causes the client to review what was important in that section. And if they're requested, they're more than happy to give you a testimonial. Your product or your service might be unfinished. Your course might be unfinished. It might well be that clients haven't got to the end of your book, your course, and it doesn't matter because you can still get the testimonials. All you need to do is structure things well. However, there might still be a problem getting a testimonial if you don't set things up. Let's say you're quite desperate for a few testimonials and you don't have people in a room like in a live workshop. So you're dependent on them getting back to you. So what you do is you improve the odds right from the start. When a client buys your product or service, you can let them know that you'd be keen for feedback and testimonials. Would it be possible to get their feedback early, long before they finish the product? Would they give their feedback on the first chapter itself? Now, feedback is not testimonial. You know that, so I'm just clarifying it. But would they give their feedback? And this might seem premature, almost like a fruit that's not ripe, but you'll be surprised at how many people say yes, provided you don't use the word testimonial alone. So it's feedback and testimonial. Unless they know you well, they'll want to give you a testimonial only after they finish a certain section. And many of us think that we have to get to the end, but you can change that mindset. But they can give you feedback right from the very start. I mean, if someone gives you a cup of coffee, you can take the first sip. You don't have to finish the whole coffee, do you? You can take a first sip and go, oh, this is, the milk seems burnt, or the coffee is too hot, or it's too cold. You can give your feedback at a very early stage, and that's what people will do. Yes, the product is complete. Yes, the course is complete. But so what? You still are getting valuable feedback, which is great for you. But what's also happening is that now they have got involved in your whole process, and they're more likely to give you a testimonial as well. And there you have it. You usually have 2 situations where you struggle to get a testimonial. The first situation is when you have a brand new product, you have a brand new course, you have a brand new service, and now you're trying to get the testimonials. What do you do? And the second is where you have a product or service which is not brand new, but no client has finished it yet. So in both situations, it's possible to get a testimonial and to get it well in advance. But let's do a summary of those in-between things that came up which were relatively important. The first thing is that you're asking for too much. So remember, you have to get them to do one page of your website, go through one chapter or one section of your book. That's very, very important. So that is the first mistake that people make. The second thing that we don't tend to do is we don't give guidelines. So we go, okay, go and review this. Well, what am I supposed to do? Think about it. I already have stuff to think about. So give me guidelines so that I know, hey, you put in some effort, and now all I have to do is go to that section, that small section, and then come up with the review based on your guidelines. And the third mistake that we make is that we don't ask for feedback and testimonials. So we tend to go, okay, let's just get the testimonials. Don't want to hear all the bad stuff. But that's what improves it. That's what makes software better. That's what makes products better. Feedback is the crux of everything. And clients are ready to take that first sip of coffee and tell you, okay, here's where it's wrong. As long as they know that you really want that feedback. And then the testimonial is much easier. So that brings us to the end of this podcast. But what is the one thing that you can do today? If you haven't finished your product or your service, you're going to have sections, you're going to have chapters, you're going to have some kind of demarcation. So first, figure out what are those demarcations. Maybe it's just a chapter. The second thing is, what are the guidelines for someone to give you feedback or testimonials on that chapter? Maybe you're just going for the testimonials. Maybe it's just a chapter and you're just going for testimonials. In that case, what are the guidelines? So these couple of things, I said one thing, but a couple of things. Create that demarcation. What are the guidelines that you can do today? And that brings us to the end of the podcast. So let's find out what's happening in Psychotactics land. On the 23rd of September, we have the Uniqueness Home Study. You know what that means. You want to stand out from everybody else. You want to get there very quickly, and there's a whole strategy behind that. There's a how-to, and there's this really, really good book, and it's called Pick One. Now, you have to be on the waiting list to get that book, that course, the home study course, and that's on the 23rd of September. You can also get Uniqueness goodies. For that, you have to go to psychotactics.com/U, as in the letter U, goodies, and there it is. On the 13th of October, that's right, 13th of October, we have the article writing home study. And the article writing course is the best-selling course that we have at Psychotactics. It's not the fastest selling, it's the best selling. The fastest was the sales page course, but the article writing is the best selling. And the reason why is because we all have to communicate, but not in this, 3 ways to do this, 4 ways, not that boring stuff, but to write articles that you dream of. You read this stuff and you go, wow, I wish I could write like that. Well, you can. And that's what this article writing course is about. It's about drama. It's about how do you get that drama, and it's nice. Well, that's the 13th of October. Again, you have to be on the waiting list. So go to the product section, the home study section on the site, and put yourself on the list. And I think you're going to get some goodies there as well. So it's worth the trip anyway. If you've wondered about how you're going to pre-sell stuff, which comes before the sales page, so this is a completely different topic, that's on the 10th of November. That's somewhere down the line, so I won't say much. But if you're keen on pre-sell, then there is also a waiting list. So we have 3 of these stacked up: Uniqueness, article writing, and pre-sale. Go on the website. It's a brand new website. It's a fun website. And talking about the website, we're going to have a treasure hunt. And I'm going to put a date now, even though we haven't fixed the date. Let's say it's the 7th of September. So 7th of September, We're going to have a treasure hunt on the website, and everyone gets to win. The ones that get there quicker get better prizes, and then there are still cool prizes, cartoons and postcards and chocolates and lots of stuff. So I'll get you more details in maybe a separate podcast. And that's what's happening in Psychotactics land. And yeah, 5000 BC, you know where we are. Come join us and join in the conversation. It's a very cool conversation with nice people. And I'll say bye for now. Bye-bye. Still listening? When we wrote the brain audit back in 2002, we also needed testimonials, but I didn't know that. And so I got in touch with this guy, Joe Vitale, and he went out and emailed a few of his friends, and they wrote testimonials. David Garfinkel, Joe Conrad Levinson, and Joe Conrad Levinson, the late Joe Conrad Levinson, he was a great copywriter, and he came back with this testimonial. And the testimonial was that something to the effect of Sean is whatever, better than Tiger Woods or something like that. Then the whole Tiger Woods thing exploded. All of those scandals and the extramarital affairs. And now we have to go around taking out all these testimonials. We have to take it out from the website. And then it's in some of the books, because the first few pages, that's where we would put the testimonial. So we had to do all of this work just because Tiger Woods went and had his extra fun on the side. So there's a freaky side to testimonials as well. Sometimes you have to go out and clean up the testimonials simply because times have changed. And so that's a little bit from Psychotactics Land. Hope you enjoyed it. And we'll see you in 5000 BC. Bye for now.